from the Pathway Studios in Johnston proper. You are live from the path.
And you're listening to Live from the Path, coming from the Pathway Studios here in Johnston proper. Nobody even knows what you're talking about.
Like 6 funny things to say, and no one thought they were funny, and so they turned my slider down so it wouldn't be on the radio. And here I am.
Hey, you're listening to Live from the Path. You did this to yourself.
We got articles to get through.
You had the options of making better life choices in this, and this is what you've done with your time.
I was reading ChristianityToday.com earlier today.
Yes, you were, weren't you?
Guess what I stumbled past? Hey, Ben, say what?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Hey, what was it, Home Slash?
Hey, it was this sweet article called Non-Denominational Churches Are Adding Millions of Members. Where are they coming from? ? And it reminded me of a show that we had, it could have been 3 months ago, where they're like old, like set denominations are gaining way more than non-denominational churches because of their liturgy and set forth ways. And I believe that same article came out of Christianity Today. So I'm really interested to read this one. So we're
Yeah, they're just asking different people?
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird.
That's like, one day bacon's going to kill you, the next day it cures cancer.
Yeah.
Somebody on the radio was doing a conversation on the way in where they're like, chocolate's really good for you according to science. I'm like, now wait a minute. I feel like I just read an article a couple days ago where like, chocolate the secret killer. It's not like I don't think anybody can be trusted. Even the news sites that are like, finally, an unbiased news opinion. You're like, it doesn't keep it from being a lie. It just means it's not biased either way.
Goes to the highest dollar.
All right, other stuff on the show. There was an article that said 12 stumbling blocks to the gospel for this generation.
Ouch.
Things that block the current generation from taking the gospel in.
So things we got to stop?
Yeah, things we got to stop doing.
Well, when people say this generation, what do they mean? Everybody that's alive right now?
Probably them, like the millennials or whatever.
Yeah, millennial leaders. Conversations with millennial
I bet you we
leaders.
can guess all half of them. At
Okay,
least.
yeah. So let's play this thing out. So everybody gets one guess, and I'll tell you whether they're on there or not. Dan, which one? What do you got?
A block would be non-affirming to the homosexual community.
Okay, all right. Dan says you never mind. I'll summarize that in a comical but offensive way. Nathaniel.
I don't know.
You knew your turn was coming. I'm going to come back to you.
I thought we were going the other way around.
We always go counterclockwise.
You thought I would go counterclockwise?
Yeah, I thought you were going down.
Everybody goes counterclockwise.
Why are you such an animal? Mike.
Well, stumbling blocks to this generation.
Yeah.
I think they're going to say accessibility to technology or like instant
gratification.
Things. Yes.
Okay. Nathaniel, you had time to think.
Waste. Like the corporate waste of the church.
Oh, okay. The structure is wasteful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can I do two?
Yeah, Dan, you can do two. Nathaniel's half a one. You can add on.
What? That was a full one.
I think they don't want to be They don't want to be told what time to do something, like scheduling.
Constraints.
Yeah, there we go. That's a good way to say it.
Okay. All right. Let's knock them out. Here we go. 12 stumbling blocks to the gospel for this generation. 1, an overemphasis on money.
Oh. What?
He says, I've been in some. This guy's picture has him standing in front of an all black background with the sun on his head. It's very disorienting. Someone needs to. He provided himself. Okay.
They said submit your own photo.
Picture of me with the sun on my head.
Hey man, they keep trying to get to me this at work. They're like, Ben, we need a photo. Have I tell the story on here? So we need a photo of you because like the photos I have of myself are not acceptable from a corporate perspective. Everyone's got these like Olin Mills looking photos.
Yeah.
I've took a selfie on a mountain in Ethiopia somewhere, and that's what I use for my corporate picture.
Yeah.
I'd send it everywhere. It's the same photo every place, and they're like, Ben, we could have you do a professional photo. I said, no, this looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. That's what I can do.
I got a hat on. I got a toothpick in my mouth.
What else do you want?
I said they might as well have a fresh impression. This is what I come bring to the table. All right. Okay. I've been in some services where the offering took more than 30 minutes. No joke.
I've been that way in Zimbabwe, but not haven't been in America
Do
before.
you now? How do you? Is it received well in Zimbabwe, Dan? Or like, are you aware of any grumbling, like people asking for money too long?
Since I don't speak Shona, I can't answer.
No one.
But I think
stamps
everybody
out?
sits there and takes it because they expect it because it happens every week.
Okay.
Y'all need to give, and they're all like have nothing. They literally have nothing.
Right. You're
And
trying to.
That's why they're trying to squeeze more out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just change the tone. They're like, give, give.
God's gonna get you.
Let's see. He gives new people the impression that the church leadership is more concerned with collecting money than preaching the gospel. I mean, if your request for money is longer than your service.
I'm out.
Yeah.
When was this article published?
That's a great question.
Oh yeah. It doesn't.
1982.
September 19th, 2021.
Yeah, we've read this before.
What, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, for sure. We have for sure read this before.
Okay, well, but what are they then, Mike? You didn't learn anything from it the first time.
You're still doing.
It's because it wasn't good the first time.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll scan them then. So the opulent lifestyle of the leadership.
Yeah,
That's the same as number 1.
Yeah.
I think you said the same thing last time.
Okay, right.
I
Scandals.
count that as a point for me.
Scandals. That's the same as 1 and 2. Okay, I see. Yeah, this does feel familiar.
I'm talking
to me.
about the mega church right here.
Yeah.
The people making the big bucks and having the scandals and
Yeah.
asking for money, and it's all a business.
Duplicitous behavior, religious titles, religious language, religious images of power. Oh, what do they mean by that? Thrones on a church stage.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah, okay. Pastors preaching down at the congregation. Oh, okay. I mean, I don't know that stages are against the Lord Jesus. Sometimes you just stand up taller than everyone else so everybody can see you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure this generation is dissuaded because, well, look at that man. I can see him properly. I'm against. That might be overdoing it. Territorial emphasis over kingdom focus.
Yeah, taking over towns, blah, blah, blah.
That's right. Programs over people, triumphalism, and no community and authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe we did.
Look at that.
Okay. This guy says, hold on. He adds to it. This man does. He says, I would add a 13th stumbling block, and that would be cultural wars. We must quit fighting unnecessary cultural wars. I don't know what that means, really.
Like, just let them do what they want.
Yeah, I mean, I did see something this week where some guy took exception to, there's something at, oh, doggone, I'm forgetting the name of the website that published it. But the crux of the thing was like, there could be an advantage to not focusing so much time on like the generation or our world doesn't need reminded that they're sinners. They need reminded that God, that they are valuable to God. Was kind of the crux of the point. And like oddly, well, not oddly, but it's spurned two different camps of starch reactions, of which both seemed unnecessarily restrictive, as if like both can't be true. Like I often need reminded of both. I often need remind because like if you recognize the nature of your sinfulness, you're gonna feel like a real pile. Like if you take that in correctly, and in the same breath, you need to be reminded that God is good. He created you, and you're created with inherent value and worth, and that He loves you and would die for you. And like the gospel is both of those, and like to the extent that we feel like we maybe we overload on them because we're like, well, I just don't think there's enough reminding people how much they suck.
Well, how prescriptive do you believe Paul's description of, like, when he's talking about people who should be on meat are still on milk? Like, do you find that a prescriptive way of looking at presenting the gospel to people? Like, the way that he goes about that argument, one could suss out that, like, okay, obviously when they're young and are new to the faith, then they drink milk, and then as they move on, then we feed them a hearty meal, right? And so, first of all, do you find that an accurate way to look at presenting the gospel to people?
To start with milk and make way to meat?
Yes.
As if I don't know that that's prescriptive. I think he's describing the situation that they're in. I don't know that
He's saying that's what they were doing.
Yes, I don't know that he's saying it is the only way to do it, or that someone can't otherwise, or that that's an extended amount of time, or don't overdo it. I'm not sure on that.
Well, here's where I think the trap is, and the problem is that it's got too much humanity in it, and so it's hard to suss out, right? So, like generally, what happens is people are trying to change outward behaviors or sin, right? Especially destructive sin, especially sin that they see is not only bad for the person committing it, but is also poisoning a culture. And so, like, we will go. The church's tack tends to be, well, as long as we can get that sin to stop, we can go back to battling regular old sin. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so we skip right past the milk, which is, God loves you. You are created in his image. He sent his son to die for you, and you are worth every bit of his death. He thought that. That's why he did it, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the milk. That's the basis, the bare bones. And instead of opening with that, right, we will tend to open with the thing that you're doing is abhorrent to God, and it's a sin, and it's terrible, and it needs to stop. And that is still true. Both those things are obviously true, right? But one is milk and one is meat, because if you don't care, the fact that if you don't believe there's a God in the first place, or you don't think that God cares about you at all, then why would you give a rip if he thinks that's a sin or not? You know what I'm saying? So I think like some of that conversation bends down to where it's not wrong, obviously, to give out the gospel in its entirety, because the whole thing's the gospel, not just the milk part, but it really depends on why we're yielding it. And I think it just feels like a lot of the time we're yielding it as a weapon to try to make sin stop, instead of yielding it as an invitation to let grace win, and sin will stop on its own.
Yeah, which is interesting because like it's a bit of it's the question is do we treat sin like you would treat a little kid trying to put his hand on the stove? Like sometimes you smack a hand that's reaching for the fire and go no, like you can't do that. But that is your influence with your child. I think the presumption is that like what it feels like is there's a level of moral superiority that you are the hand smacker. And I think that actually gives the wrong impression. That is not the level of influence you have. And if some random person come over and be smacking me for like, I would not take that well.
Yeah.
Because of the presumption of it. And so like, ignore whether the thing you're saying is true or not. The question is whether it is effective in its truth. Like, not that you have to be schemy about it, but like, are they actually able to take in the whole truth of what you're saying? Like Paul would recognize who he's talking to and then talk things in a way that they might get, and like hand smacking just ain't communicating what you want. I think
there's earning permission to speak into someone's life, and correct them, as opposed to just going around yelling at everybody.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think that maybe a lesson that I don't know if God was specifically teaching me or something, but maybe just something that I've realized over the years is like, I assumed there was way more mustache twisting going on in this world than there actually is. Like, I assumed way more people were, like, intentionally scheming a direction and, like, thwarting the God of the universe on purpose because that's how they decided to live their life. And, like, come to find out that either they believed a lie about themselves, they believed a lie about God, or they were fooled somewhere along the way and then built a pyramid of falsity on top of, like, this one thing. And there was no mustache twisting involved. They just followed one logical human thing to another until they were way far away from the Lord.
Yeah. Think of how many people you know who have met and would proclaim and desire to serve the living God and yet have the hardest dang time living with any intentionality. And so then why would you look at the rest of the world and go, look at all these people intentionally thwarting the living God? They may, in fact, be attempting to do so, but not because they're doing it in, like, I think there's a lot more ignorance for the world. There's a lot of people just floating on their relative surroundings.
Yes.
Here's what's going on. Here's what looks kind of normal. I'm not a boat rocker. I have a little bit of, I got some things that make me feel good. I'm going to try to do those. But, like, I just, like, one of the biggest mistakes that we make, and I think we make this not only just from a Christian perspective, but even in relationships we have, is we go around just presuming that people have been thoughtful and intentional about the things that they're saying or doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not that way.
No.
I wish I were. I wish I was way better about this. Like, it's one of the serial things that comes to my mind. Like, I wish I lived with some intention. And here's the thing. I have everything at my fingertips to know what that intention should be. Like the God of the universe has allowed me clarity with the word he's provided, with people around me, with constant influence of the Holy Spirit. I have totally the things at my disposal to live intentionally, and I often fail to do so. I just don't know. I think we just got to be. What this causes us to do is we give up too soon. We look and go, well, that guy's mind is made up. I'm like, mind made up for what? Like Cheetos tonight for breakfast? Yeah. Like, that's as far as he got.
Yeah, I really I can't decide whether it's a humility problem, like on our end, like and mine. When I'm saying our, I'm saying mine. Right? Like,
yeah, you. Yeah.
Instead of walking into a situation with anybody and just assuming that God is already working in their life, and so like you're not the opening gambit, you're not the one that's stirring, you're not the one that had planted a seed or is in charge of flipping the whole thing around. God is already moving in their life. Your job is just to come alongside it, and be the presence of the Holy Spirit in this interchange. Because what happens is like, especially if you find people that their lifestyle appears to be so far off of what God has asked, you instantly feel now you're picking sides. It's me against them, right? Like they have to change, and which is true, they do. They need to change. That's the thing is it's not that they have to change because God said so. You want to be so desperately broken because they really need to change, and you want them to. You want them to see that. You don't want them to your heart is not going, I want you to bathe in how wrong you are and realize it and then turn. What we want you to do is meet the holy living God, and your life will change on its own. The Holy Spirit will do those changes, right? And so like it's just some of the way that we posture at it. We posture at it in such a, I don't know, we posture at it in a weird way as if we've done something. And we haven't done anything, you know. If grace was freely given to you, then you will freely give it away. If you believe that you earned it, then all of a sudden you want everyone else to earn it too. And so it really is just the way that we posture and how we look at it, and our attitude just makes it come off not how Jesus presented it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and I mean that's a convicting problem for everybody. I feel that way when I think I'm outnumbered and I'm like the only Jesus guy within 3 miles, and I'm like, all right, everybody's against me. And like instead of like standing with confidence as a son of the King that goes, God, will you be with everybody within 3 miles of me? If there's anything I can do to help this along, they really need you so badly, you know. But like my pride will come up a little bit, like I shrink and go, they're against me. I have to protect me and myself and my rights to love Jesus. And like, who gives a rip about my rights to love Jesus?
Right. It's like walking into that 3 mile radius, and instead of going, oh man, what am I gonna do? Going, hey, what are we doing?
Yes, exactly.
What are we doing around here, Lord? I know you're involved. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
It's a reflex of fear on our part. Right? As once again, sons of the King. And our reflex is, I must protect myself and my right to be able to love Jesus the way that I want. And Jesus is like, I want you to introduce other people to me. And if I have to step on your rights to do that, I would like you to submit to that. And you go, right, sorry, I lost it for a minute there, you know?
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, that covers that part. People are going, so what was the one that you had, Mike?
Here it is. Non-denominational churches are adding millions of members. Where are they coming from? Okay, quick overview. Somebody give me a quick synopsis on denominational versus non-denominational churches.
Well, it's an affiliation thing, like whether you affiliate with like a denomination, and let's just go with like an official one that's has some sort of like regulatory structure and a leadership structure. Versus a non-denominational church, which basically is autonomous. They're
just a community of people.
It ends in and of itself. It has no other specific affiliation, hierarchical affiliation.
Now it's not like though like Catholicism or Catholics. Are they a denomination or are they unto themselves?
No, they're denominational.
Yeah,
okay. Everything rolls up.
Yeah.
Okay, and so now I'm trying to remember this because I don't do this very often. There's Catholics, and then there's Protestants, correct? And those are just two big groups. It's basically Catholicism, and Protestants are everybody else.
Anybody who protests against Catholicism.
Anybody that claims
like
to
Jew
be
and Gentile.
a Christ follower that is not Catholic is a Protestant.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, here we go. We're gaining a bunch of people. Where are they coming from? Over the last decade, Baptists, Methodists, Lutherans, Presbyterians, and every other Protestant family has declined except for those who say they are non-denominational. The 2020 U.S. religion census That ought to be a wingding of a document. Due out later this year, tallied 4,000 more non-denominational churches than in 2010, and non-denominational church attendance rose by 6.5 million during that time. At the same time, mainline Protestant Christianity is collapsing, following 5 decades of decline. In the mid-'70s, nearly a third of Americans were affiliated with denominations like the United Methodist Church and the United Church of Christ and the Episcopal Church. But now just 1 in 10 Americans are part of the mainline tradition. In 2021, non-denominational Protestants in the United States outnumbered mainline Protestants. But what is causing this tremendous shift in the church landscape? Does anybody want to take a guess?
Here's something that maybe they're not taking into account is there are a lot of denominational churches that are being planted as non-denominational churches, but they're still what they are. Like for example, Saddleback Church in California is a Southern Baptist church, and they are part of the convention of the Southern Baptist churches, but everybody assumes they were their own thing. That number would be, most people would say, oh, that's a non-denominational church. That's how they promote themselves. That's and they're really not.
So I wonder how they decide, like when they do the poll, they're like, are you denominational or non-denominational? And they just take your word for it if you're like, we're non-denominational.
I planted a church, and it was like, we're just non-denominational. We just made up a name, but we really are non-denominational. I mean, there is no hierarchy telling us what to do.
Right.
But I know people who have planted, Baptist or whatever, Lutheran, whatever churches, and they've just changed the name because there's so much baggage that comes. Yeah. I mean, it's from a pure motive. They're not trying to be sneaky. They're just like, well, people don't like X brand, so we're not going to use that brand. We're still going to be it. We're going to take the Levi's tag off, and we're going to put, brand X on our jeans, and there's still Levi's. So there's a lot of that going on, which I think throws off the numbers maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just a thought.
I do wonder how much of this can be attributed to I think they want us to presume that it's people trying to get out of structured, what feel like more restrictive denominations, but a lot of the mainline Protestant denominations are going through progressive crises, trying to figure out what does it look like to be. I mean, take a Methodist church, take a Lutheran church, and those churches are splitting, and which side of those are continuing to carry the name of, hey, we're still the Methodist church, or we're something else. We're another non-denominational, and we changed our core position from the mothership.
Some of the church growth they're talking about would be splits from denominational churches, where half the congregation started a non-denominational church because of that.
Yes.
And then actually that would easily double the amount of non-denominational churches, right?
Exactly. And then it gets all hairy because then, let's say you are a denomination and we're brand X, and they say, wait a minute, we don't like the way the denomination has headed. We're going to be their own thing. Well, the denomination owns the property, generally speaking. So they've just lost their building. So all of a sudden, well, then we got to go start a new church, find a new place, change the name. It's a new thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a lot of that has happened.
Yeah. So actually, I mean, the attendance thing would be, once again, if you can say the attendance for denominational churches had a steep decline, and at the same rate we're seeing non-denominational churches go up, it almost begs to be they're leaving this to start this, and so one's really not going down. There's not a net gain in people meeting Jesus.
No,
I don't know.
I think that's the risk, and it always has been. Is that I'm not sure it particularly drives the kingdom to be swapping Christians around.
Yeah.
Now, some of these denominational splits over legit concerning spiritual items. Okay, so it's not I get it. But the macro thought, I think we should be careful about, hey, if one of the narratives you could take away from here is to say, oh, non-denominational churches are on the rise, we should plant more non-denominational churches. I'm not sure that's the right takeaway. I'd be more questioning which churches are bringing on new people who've not met Jesus before than I am. Yeah. It's okay that people go other places, that just happens, but that's not a mark that we should be chasing. We should be reacting to how other people are meeting Jesus. Because frankly, if let's say you planted a non-denominational church and you had a bunch of mainline folks from a bigger denomination come to this place, I don't care that 100 people join that church, but if the church is working and 50 more people came to meet Jesus, then I can tell you that structure is being effective. And so I care more about the number of people that they're reaching who don't know Jesus than I do about where they came from.
Just like we had a non-denominational church start a couple miles from us here, and like one of the first things he did was like friend all of our people in social media and then start meeting with them and trying to get them to their church.
What?
Yeah. So it's like, well, under the guise of we're going to reach people, it's like, well, no, you're not reaching anybody. They're already people. They're already Christians.
Yeah, right.
They're already believers. Yeah. So that's
Did you go talk to him, Dan? Do you feel like you're aggressive in this manner?
I mean, we know each other well enough and I know him well enough that it wouldn't matter what would do.
Oh, man.
It'd just be like a big, hey, stop it. No. Okay.
Oh.
I mean, what do you do?
Gosh, that's embarrassing.
Yeah. And I'm just, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I just thought, well, that's between him and God, and it's
What a jackwagon.
Yeah.
but there's a lot of that going on. I mean, and a lot of the churches that non-denomination that pop up and then they become the cool church and everybody starts going to them. They're just stealing people from other churches. We got to grab musicians. We got to grab leaders. We got to grab, hey, can we have your children's people come to our church because all of ours are sick this week? And I'm like, nope, sorry. Because I know what you're going to do. You're going to try.
That's embarrassing.
But it's out there. It's just like a cutthroat. It's like in my naive little way, I figure God will just kind of take care of that stuff. And
we have to answer for this type of buffoonery, right? Can you imagine having to stand in front of Jesus and he goes, now you're trying to steal other people that love me that were already in a community of people that they love.
But they think they can do it better.
What? There's not a better.
I know, but it's an arrogance that comes with, but I know better because, I do. It's like, I'm pretty sure you don't.
Wow.
Feed my sheep. Hey Dan, can I borrow some sheep?
And some sheep food.
I'm pretty good at feeding it though. Check this out.
Look at me, I work out.
Okay, what is driving the growth of non-denominational churches? ? While in the past it resulted from a significant portion of individuals leaving a mainline tradition, now it looks like non-denominational congregations are increasing by taking in people who were raised Catholic, which is about a quarter of the general population. At the same time, more and more young people are being raised in non-denominational churches, which means that retaining their own will become just as important to non-denominationals as bringing in new adult members in the future. See, this is where this article has turned to like things I don't care about, right? Like as a person who attends a non-denominational church, I don't think we need to band together as non-denominationals and come up with a plan for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Right? You just need to look back at the tail end of Matthew and go, are we doing that?
Yeah, right.
Okay, we're good to go then. Or are we not doing that? We need to do better.
No, let's band together and come up with a name and maybe a logo.
That's
now you're a denomination.
And a governing body.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's in charge here?
Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the gist of that article, I guess.
Hey, but now here's what I do. As I've actually seen that quite a bit of. I'd call them like the Catholic curious, like the people who are like. They see other people interacting with the faith in a way that just is foreign to them, and they're like, what is going on over there? And it's not like they don't know things. It's not like they've not had interactions or a kind of a basic understanding of Jesus, but like there's a lot of ways in which it didn't feel super tangible. And I mean, I have similar experiences going to the Catholic Church, and there's things I can appreciate about it. Because there's things they get right about reverence and about, I think church history is awesome. I think we ignore some of the really cool things that God has done to our peril of Him working through His people, and like some of those denominations have really long memories, and that's probably good. So like I think there's a value in it, but like I have seen quite a few Catholic curious folks, and like this exegetical. We're going to go through and like read the scriptures is a surprising thing to a lot of them because they're just not used to like someone just going, all right, I'm not going to pull this verse and tell you what I think. We're going to read this chapter and go from there and see what we're taking in. It's just different. All right. Hey, you're listening to Live from the Path. I don't know. I'd be interested to see, you can give us a call on the complaint line at 515-517-0085. Call or text. Like, have you switched denominations, I guess. Like, I don't care that you've gone to different churches, but like, were you non-denominational and now you're, Lutheran? Did you start as a Methodist and now you went to Catholicism? Like, is that something? I'm just interested in how that process went, what kind of caused it, and how you think about where you came from nowadays. I'd be interested in that. So, like, I don't know if you want to share that on the Live from the Path Bob Eisenlark complaint line. Call or text 515-517-0085, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Okay. So
wait. Never mind.
Wait.
It doesn't matter.
No, tell me.
So I wonder if they're including like Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ in there, because they each church is, I mean, technically a like autonomous, and they claim to be non-denominational, even though they all bear the same name. Like there's no hierarchical structure. There's no Pope of the
Church of Christ.
Church of Christ.
Can anyone just decide to open up a Church of Christ?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, because there's literally nothing. I mean, there are several Church of Christ in town, but none of us see completely eye to eye on everything. We have our own way of doing things. And
You're an antagonistic bunch in general, like a free, individually spirited.
Yeah. It really took off during like the Revolutionary War time, because that was kind of the heart of where people were. They're like, up yours,
Yeah.
Church of England, Presbyterian Church, or and they went from different places.
Anabaptists.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll have you know.
we're gonna do our own thing.
Me and Bob Stone.
Yeah. I get, actually, I have seen another. They said there was another run of them in Ireland, and they just called them the Church O' Christ.
Yeah.
God damn.
Sorry. At a weak moment.
I couldn't help it. I got sucked in.
Dang it.
It's like watching the Floby infomercial. All of a sudden, I'm dialing the numbers.
Okay, so last week we caught up with Dan coming back from Zimbabwe. Mike is off a recent trip to Ethiopia. Mike, this will be your second time in Ethiopia. Tell us a little bit about how it went, and like maybe was there anything different between last time and this time?
Yeah, I think so. Like my wife and I both had gone previously, and this time separately, and then this time we were going to take the kids, and so I don't know. I front loaded it a lot with trying to take away from the trip what God wanted me to, right? So like the easy thing, what normally happens is like, especially if you're going to an African country or a third world country that has a lot of poverty in it, like the thing that you always see is the poverty, right? Because we grow up in a land of such excess and whatever, the general thought when you get there is they need to look more like me, which means they need a TV and an air conditioner, and then all of a sudden things will be well. And like I know better than that, and I knew better than that after I'd gone there last time. And so I was praying really that would not be the major thing that I took away. And so, I mean, long story short, I was amazed by how many people love Jesus and follow them faithfully, and follow him faithfully, and do the work that he has asked them to do, regardless of their situation, right? Everything that I would see as a guy growing up in a Western culture as a detriment, it doesn't even cross their radar as a problem, right? They're not even considering it. And a couple of things that I was really impressed with is one of the gals that we were working with that she runs one of the homes for the girls. They still work on an orphanage system in Ethiopia, and so like it sounds like the within the country, it didn't used to exist. You couldn't do inter-country adoption, just didn't happen. It was allowed, but it just didn't happen. There wasn't like a foster care system really, and so like if the kids didn't have a place to go, they just went to orphanages, and then they were government run. And so one of the adoption agencies, after they shut down international adoption in Ethiopia, just basically opened a house and took in girls after they would get out of the orphanage. Then they would take care of them, start them out with some skills and some family, and love them and teach them about Jesus and all this stuff. And so one of the things that they had introduced is like they have some sponsor families where they basically say, look, if we, without any assistance, they will be forced to give up their kids. So what we'll do is we will give them assistance. We'll give them food and dry goods and whatever, and they can keep their kids because that's what they really want. They don't want to give up their kids. They just don't have the financial means to handle it. And so we got to hand out a bunch of food to families like that and talk to them and meet with them and played a lot of soccer. And I was watching one of these gals had come in, and she was in a wheelchair, and she had like 3 kids. And basically the deal was is you got like a big old bag of teff flour and some cooking oil and whatever, and like $20 to get it home. And the woman did not want to spend the $20 on the ride home. She wanted to keep it, so she was going to like wheel it all the way home, which was unheard of.
Right.
So my immediate thought is I don't care. We'll give her another $20. Whatever. We'll just put her in the cab. We'll give her another 20. And the gal, she's like, no, that's not how this is going to work. Like I'm immediately taking in. I'm like, no, it's no problem. And she's like, no. We just need to find the right people. And that money was designed to get it home. And like, she doesn't get to keep it. She gets the teff and the oil and everything's cool. And like on the onset, I was like, well, that's not very generous. But once again, God puts people to manage the things, the generosity and the work of the things that he's doing. And like, just like you find people down at the homeless shelter and at the rehab joint, right? Like they see through things, or they see things as they are, opposed to just, a random person coming in and trying to retell how the story is going. And so like, I was instantly reminded that like, what they need mostly is what we have excess of, which is just funds to let people do what God has empowered them to do. I mean, there's the visit, like when you get to visit some of the kids and whatever, like it's just as much as a change in my heart as it is for theirs. I did get to do a devotional to some gals, a group of teenage girls, and like I had to go through an interpreter, and it was very difficult. And I wasn't quite prepared. I think I had like 5 paragraphs. I'm like, this will take like 10 minutes after we get through it. And I didn't get through 1 paragraph in 10 minutes because it was just like I would ask a question and then she would translate, and then they would all just stare at me. And I'm like, that was a question. And then the translator would stare at me, and I'm like, okay, well, here's the answer. And so that was different. But it was nice going there with my kids. And like, cool enough, like my girls, I don't think they picked up anything that. One of the things that my wife and I, especially my wife, was praying for the kids for is that God doesn't expose them to things that their heart can't process, right? So some of the bigger things and like some of the sadder parts of it, where I look at an 11-year-old girl in an orphanage going, man, she's got 9 more years of this, and like she's smiling now and playing soccer, and like she's not broken or mad or anything, and I'm like, but she doesn't have a mom and a dad or a parent either way, or family that just like says, I will take responsibility for you and your relationship with Christ and what you're going to do in your life, and I will love you regardless. And those orphanages are probably doing the best that they can, but it's not good enough. It's just flat out not good enough, And so like that stuff weighs on me, and as much as I want it to weigh on my kids so they appreciate not only their situation but the situation of others correctly, God didn't do that. He just didn't do that, right? He let them out there to smile and play and make friends and whatever. And I think that's one of the other things I think I kind of took away is God's like, don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me how to deal with my kids. I know what they can hold and what they can handle. And there's no reason to beat your kids up with big world problems that like they're just not, their heart's not ready to take on. Like they're not going to take it on quite right. So overall, it was I had a great time. I'd go back again. I always worry, like especially on shorter term mission trips, that like that. I think you guys called it last week, where you're being like a mission tourist,
Yeah.
And like it's kind of one of those things. Is like we would go to some places and they'd be like, "We'll have the girls come out and you guys can do this." And I'm like, "Hey man, don't be changing your schedule on my account. We were just here to like buy goods. I wanted to hear it from the horse's mouth what you wanted or what you needed." And then we'll go get it bought and we'll drop it back off. You guys don't have to like entertain us or whatever, And, I mean, unless you want to, and then that's cool. We'd love to hang around with you, but like, don't feel like you got to like dog and pony show for us just because we're here. You guys go back do your business, and we'll move on. And so, I think it's I was really against say short-term mission trips probably 10 years ago. I'm like, nah, these are horrible. What a waste of time. God's got people, and all that is still true, but it doesn't change. What God might be doing in you, and what God might helping you see differently. And especially after listening to Dan's, stuff from Zimbabwe, it's just some of the stuff I find to be a shame to us. Like we just got zero the amount of joy that pours out of some of these situations, and the amount of stupid things that I get upset about is convicting and embarrassing. It just almost feels shameful. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just embarrassed that they're smiling and happy and have joy in the Lord, and like and I got complaints and gripes, and so like that stuff is always very convicting to me when we make those trips. So plane ride was terrible for sure.
Oh man,
for sure.
What? Why don't we like it?
That's just a long plane ride. It was like 17 hours.
You go sleep.
No, I tried that.
No, you don't sleep. Dan, you don't sleep on a plane either.
No. I thought I had it licked this time, though. I was going to take some Z-Quil. I'm like, I'll knock myself out. This will be fine. I took that Z-Quil, and then I was just super drowsy for like 2 hours. Not asleep, but really tired and couldn't fall asleep. So then I was irritated.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the best.
Okay.
But,
Tricky. Either of you run into these situations where it felt, I think people worry about traveling places like it might feel unsafe.
Yeah.
You feel that?
So Addis Ababa is the capital of Ethiopia, and it's like it's the largest landlocked population, right? So like it takes New York out of it because New York's got open water on one side, but like the largest landlocked city, the largest population in the world, and like you're not really supposed to be tooting around at night. But this fella's like, hey, you guys want to walk up to the grocery store? It's just a little bit up the road. I'm like, yeah, sure. And it's dark outside, and this is classic of African countries. When they say it's a little bit up the road, it's like 4 miles.
Yeah.
You're like, it's 10 minutes walk. No, sir. No, it's 45 minutes walk, and they hustle, and they really move. And so, but like we're walking down the street at nighttime, pretty much unattended. We're trying to keep up with the guy walking in front of us, and he was a super cool cat, but he just walked fast. And he wasn't worried about his safety at all because he was not a white guy or a white lady walking down the street. And then like these little kids are out at 9 o'clock at night, like literally laughing at us. Like barrel laughing as we passed by. And then they stopped, and we walked all the way to the coffee shop we were supposed to be going to, which turned out to be closed. And we walked all the way back, and they were ready for another barrel laugh when we walked by, just because we were a bunch of weird white people walking around at us in the middle of the night, And so, it gave me the stomachs for about 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't think I really should be doing this, but I thought, if God wants to kill me in the middle of Addis Ababa, that's fine. Yeah. What am I worried about? This is gonna be fine. So that part was, it was fun.
Dan, you feel unsafe at all?
No, I can't think of. There were times I like the radar would come on a little bit, but it's really weird. I've gone to the same place enough times now where I oddly feel more and more at home.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a weird. I just feel like, man, this is like I miss this place. And,
yeah.
And like it was a new level for me. This time they just gave me the keys to the car and said, "All right, go for it."
You were driving. You were driving in Zimbabwe.
I was driving around, and
is that legal?
I think so. I think you have so many months. Like even if you like move there, you have so long.
So like he's on a 3-month reprieve. Let him take to the streets.
Actually, that was true in Ethiopia. I found out like you can use your American driver's license for like 3 months, or if you go into the like DOT. They'll give you an Ethiopian one. And I'm like, we're definitely doing that.
You should do that.
I want an Ethiopian driver's license. And everybody laughed at me like I was being some kind of funny man.
That'd be kind of fun. Yeah.
And then we did not get one.
Oh.
And I'm like, I really want my face on an Ethiopian driver's license.
Like the Zimbabwe ones are metal. I don't know if that's a common over there.
I don't know. I didn't see any actual driver's license.
That's boss.
Yeah. I was like, man, that kind of, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But there was like one time at night driving around that I was like, we went to the store, and while we were in the store, they closed the road that I know how to get back.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to do some construction the next day. Or when they say close the road, they would just put a bunch of rocks in it and said, don't go, don't
go
use
there.
So it took a little longer getting home because it's not like straight, roads. It's
right.
It's like, oh, let's build a house here, and. So it took a while to get home, and I had a couple people with me that were more new to travel.
Yeah.
And so I didn't let them know I was kind of starting to kind of wonder, like, I have no idea where I'm at. Right. But we found it.
Okay. Wait, and like no phone service and stuff, dude?
Oh, yeah, no, there's nothing. It's just where's on it. Right?
I did find that like the metaphor of making paths straight, making roads, like we take that really for granted around here because like we pave our roads.
Yeah.
And even a pothole is a minor inconvenience, and like if you drive some of these roads in some of these towns, you can't go any better than 10 miles an hour. It's just a bumbling and a bouncing, and like quick turns and they're falling apart and washing away and whatever. And so like sometimes that metaphor that they're talking about John the Baptist making curvy ways straight and whatever, and you're like, what's that? It just doesn't apply to us because we can go 75,
Right.
for like hours and hours and hours without having much of a conversation about it. And you can't go. I was talking to the guy that was driving us around, and I'm like, have you ever had this thing above 50? He's like, 50? No, not 50. like he's lived there his whole life, and he's never driven above 50 miles an hour because there's no stretch of road that's good enough to do it.
Right.
Well, it's probably 50 kilometers a mile an
Yeah,
hour. I mean,
yeah.
so it's even like,
That's even less,
oh.
All right, you're listening live from the path. Thanks for hanging out with us so far tonight. Let's deal out some advice, and we'll put this ship in the. If you put the ship to bed, where would you put it, Nathaniel?
The harbor.
Yeah, put the ship in the harbor.
Oh boy. Nope. Dear life, from the path, I have 2 friends who are sisters. They text me every day throughout the day, sharing every thought and every little thing that happens to them.
Yeah.
Also, they constantly invite me over to their homes and try to manipulate me into coming over. One does it by telling me her daughter loves me and wants me to come for dinner. The other uses other tactics of similar nature, like her dog misses me. None of the other people in my life do this. We all have lives to live, some busier than others. But with the others, we see each other on birthdays, holidays, and other celebrations where we all get together, visit, and catch up. This everyday texting is getting on my nerves to the point where some days I don't respond to either of them.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I've tried subtly and blatantly to tell them to stop, but to no avail. What else do I need to say or do? I've known both of these people for 40 years, and it seems they only, quotes, hear me when I flip out on them. Something I'm trying to change about myself. Wow.
What a
So
happy
weird.
person.
Why does this lady hate friendship?
Yeah.
You, who texts you the most often? Probably your wife.
No.
Not your wife.
No.
Who texts you the most often?
Dylan.
Man friends.
Dylan Crossgrove.
More than once a day?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't have anybody that texts me more than once a day.
No.
That's a great question.
My mom, my wife, definitely, and sometimes just once a day, and then past that, no.
No. I tell you what, if a
Mine's
text
spread
message
out.
if a text message string goes longer than 4 interchanges, I start letting out audible guffs. Like, ugh. What
Yeah,
do you
what
want?
Why do you
heck
guys
is
hate
this?
friendship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to defend this lady slightly because
Because you hate friendship?
I find that drives me nuts. I feel
mean-
like you want to get out what you got to say and then be done with it.
What if someone were doing that in person? Like you're in there, you're trying to work, or you're trying to read, or you're trying to talk to your kids, and all of a sudden your friend just shows up and goes, "Hey, man." Like the 4th time that happened, I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like let's tuck this up.
Yeah.
I mean, she's known them for 40 years,
40 years.
so she doesn't have any young children. They just want her to come over and be part of their life. I mean, it's like
Every
she's-
night, though, Dan.
Well, no, I mean,
Maybe they feel bad for her. Maybe they think
they're
she's
probably
lonely.
thinking, yeah, she obviously has no friends. We'll try to be her friend.
Yeah, let's call Meredith over.
Sharing
Where's-
every thought and every little thing that happens to them.
They're just
Ah,
trying to
she's a
find
jerk.
They're
out.
not just extending invitations. They're like, "Ooh, bird passed the window. Saw it. Hey, mailman's here.
I don't know. I think she's overextending.
Brownies are
it.
done. Geraldo's on. I gotta poop."
I think she needs to go to a nursing home and just put herself down.
I don't know why you guys are acting like this towards this woman.
She's
These
just
people
mean.
are needy and cranky. Can you imagine? Change your text message instead of going bing. Change it to "Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me." That should be the audible sound that a text message makes, because without any regard for what you're doing, it goes, "Pay attention to me. Stop what you're doing and look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look
I
at
mean,
me."
can't they text each other?
I'm sure they can.
The-
They probably do when she doesn't answer.
They're probably texting, "What are you going to text next?"
Yeah.
I saw a bird.
I'm gonna poop.
Oh man, I don't know. I think she for one thing, they should take a clue and just back off. But
I mean, you've known them for 40 years. Let's say that they're at least 50, would you say?
I probably
Okay.
or more.
Yeah. So one is there's 2 separate things here. One is a matter of preference. One is a matter of jerky behavior. It's preference if you're just not a person who wants to be chatted at all day.
Ding. Look at me.
Yeah. So I think that's not jerky. It's just a preference item. It is, however, a jerky thing to do when someone goes, "Look, man, don't be chatting at me all day. I'm not going to respond to them, and I don't particularly love this, and you keep doing it.
Keep doing it anyway.
That's jerky.
Yeah, listen, I can tell. I've done this. I've navigated this successfully. Ignore it completely and don't answer it ever.
And she does that too.
And about 2 days in, they'll say some real mean stuff that they can't take back, and then you go, done. And then they won't text you anymore.
I think she needs to develop some people skills.
Ding! Look at me.
Must start texting you
I don't care what you're doing. Look at me. Ding!
because I love friendship.
That's
Nathaniel.
like
Nathaniel. Hello.
I used to come and give you a big hug once in a while, Mike, just because I knew you hated it.
Ding!
For no other reason. It wasn't because I wanted you to feel my flesh against you.
Hey,
I
man.
don't know why you gotta say it like that.
Yeah.
Oh. Because I knew it made you feel really uncomfortable.
Okay, this week's shirt quote is "Feel my flesh." Episode 475. Okay, so here's my final advice. I would.
She's trying to not flip out on him because she's trying to change that about herself.
Okay, yeah, don't flip out on them. I mean,
To learn to like
that's
people.
that's ridiculous.
Take a chillaxative.
Hold on. She waxed philosophical, and you're going to take it in again. We all have lives to live. Some busier than others.
Yeah.
But with others, we see each other on birthdays, holidays, and other celebrations where we all get together, visit, and catch up.
Yeah, I just deal. It's taxing. Here's the deal: you're wigging yourself out by spending too much time either thinking or responding to it. Like, respond however you want to respond. Respond however often you want to. If you want to respond every couple of days, then do that. If you've already told them that, like, hey man, I don't get around. I mean, I've tried. Here's the thing: I've unsuccessfully done this. It doesn't ever change the behavior. A person who just wants to keep texting you, I said, look, I'm not going to get to these all the time. Not everything you say is going to generate a response from me.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
And so, either live with it or, dial it back because you say you're wasting your time with me. That's okay, too. Maybe that's what I was going for. Either way, just don't feel responsible that you have to do it. Don't be a jerk about it. I'd respond back every few days or so. But, if you don't want to respond every day, if you don't want to read it every day, put it on mute. Catch up it when you want to. That's fine.
Yeah.
You've already explained yourself. This is like they are acting as if you're a different person than you are, and that's kind of their deal.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, I haven't had people that just text or they'll call, and you just don't answer the phone.
Nope,
just don't answer it.
Yeah, you don't pick it up.
Then you call it back if it's important. If they're just saying, "Hey, the grass is greener today," then.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception about the phone. It's
Yeah,
like
they don't own you.
Yeah, that's right. You're not a slave to the phone. Like it rings, you answer it if you want to answer it. When they send a text message, answer it if you want to answer it. But the problem is the person on the other end of the phone is like, "Well, I called you." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." "Well, you didn't answer it." "I know that too. I was there. I didn't want to." "Well, you should call when I answer." So what it means is the inherent thought is, as soon as I decide I want to talk to you, you're going to talk to me.
You're gonna, yeah.
Right? And we don't. That's not the right way to live.
I texted Ben while we've been talking. He has not texted me back.
I'm not going to do it, Dan. He did. He's harassing me.
He's gonna try to flesh you. Stay away from him.
I don't want to give the impression that I answer text messages, and so
what are you doing?
I'm not doing.
All right,
chicken for supper.
Secular says, it would not be, quotes, flipping out to firmly tell these needy sisters you do not have time to text them with them on a daily basis because you are a busy person and being bombarded is distracting. You also do not have to visit anyone because their dog or their child misses you. Set some ground rules and see them when it's convenient for you. Say once a month, if that. Once the pressure is off, you might enjoy them more.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Now, she it's very possible she's telling the story manipulatively, like saying, they may just be, maybe this woman is a bit standoffish and she doesn't come over very often, and so they're just trying lightheartedly be like, oh, yeah, as opposed to offering up that they, as always, want her to come over. It's like, oh, and my dog misses you. Like, I mean, I wouldn't overcrank on that.
Yeah.
What, say?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I side with the cantankerous woman at the beginning of the letter. That's too much communication.
You friendship hater.
I like to keep my friends at a long distance away.
A couple arm lengths.
I answer most text messages, just not when they're like repeated or abusive or like, hey man, Hey man, look at me. Bing, Nathaniel. Bing, look at me.
I don't think there's ever been a text message that I've sent you that you haven't responded to.
Right.
But I'm not like hitting you up every day.
That's what if you started, then I would just ignore you completely.
Hey Mike, what do you think of this?
Yeah. Or
My
like
dog
people
wants
that
to see you.
send me pictures of their food or something. Be like, hey, I made this. I'm like, okay. I don't know what to say about it. If you ever send me a picture of your food and I say anything besides okay, I've literally just made something up based on what I saw in a movie happen.
Right.
Someone said, look at this delicious thing, and I'll say something like, oh man, that looks fantastic. Well, where did you get the recipe? I don't actually mean any of that.
Yeah.
What my brain instantly goes is, okay.
Yeah.
What do you want me? I don't know. Are you gonna bring it over?
If I were a considerate human, what would I say?
Yeah.
Let's try that. How long did you cook that for? I fooled you.
Could I have the recipe?
You dumb bastard.
Yeah, I can't. I told my wife the biggest thing that I'm guilty of in this life is like I don't actually know what to do in 95% of situations, and so I like take on a role of a guy that would know what to do. I don't know what to do in big heavy situations or even little tiny ones. Even at the bank, they'll be like, "Hey, we're closing in 5 minutes," and I'll just awkwardly stand there like,
So?
okay. Does that mean you want me to leave? Or I don't understand. It's like, just get your stuff done. Why didn't they just say that?
I don't know why I remember this, but I was driving one day and there was some like people I worked with in the van, and one of the girls that was in there goes, "Hey, I bought some pants for like this. It was one of the girls' football games, you know, like where the girls play."
Oh, yeah.
The powerful games. And she's like, but I wore them I slept in them last night. And I'm like, oh.
What do
I
do
said,
with this?
break them in? And one of the other dudes that was in the car goes, Ben has no idea what to say to that. I said, well, good. At least I'm understood. I do. I don't know if I'm being led into some sort of weird direction.
Yeah.
Or this was like a legit conversation, but I just have no idea what to say. Oh,
That's interesting.
why would you say that out loud?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's it. You're trying to figure out what was your motivation, and it's like I don't know, because I can't figure that out. I don't know how to respond.
I don't-
Yeah.
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 But then I was waiting for him to fix it. Like he would say the thing I should have said, but he didn't. The conversation just turned to how I didn't know what to say. I'm like, well, dang it. How am I supposed to learn? I've not improved upon that yet.
Oh.
Okay, last one.
Okay.
Your life from the past.
Go for heaven's sakes.
I graduated from college with a degree in a niche field. In my graduating class of nearly 7,000, there were only 4 of us with this specific degree. I now have a career in the field I majored in. I love what I do and take pride in it. The problem is my family. For whatever reason, my parents and siblings don't seem to want to remember what I do. When people back home ask what I'm up to, they come up with some vague or dismissive answer. When they tell me about it later, they seem to think it's funny. The first few times I could laugh about it too, but this has been going on for years. Their one-sided running gag has grown old. I don't care that they're not interested in what I do, but I feel humiliated and hurt when they act so dismissive of it to other people. It happened again a few days ago while I was out with my family at an event. A family member intentionally messed up the name of my workplace multiple times, even after I had corrected him, while talking to a volunteer. Although I managed to step in, it's still weighing on me. I have tried explaining what I do numerous times. It's not confusing. I haven't even suggested they use broader alternatives. If they would say I'm an ecologist, I would be thrilled. Nothing has changed. I'm left wondering if this runs deeper than a joke and they don't actually take me seriously. Do I need to be more blunt? Should I tell them this has crossed the line from funny to hurtful? Or am I blowing this out of proportion? First of all, dude, what did you graduate with? I've never heard such a bloviated amount of nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like 8 minutes of nothing.
Why don't you just say the more general term? I'm in the medical field,
Right.
Or
I'm a college graduate.
I'm a
Or whatever.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do marketing.
This dude studies moss, guaranteed.
You think so?
Like he's a
It's-
boss man?
Yeah, it's something dumb like that. Or his family's like, oh, look at old Moss Man Pete. And
Moss Man Pete Moss.
exactly. Put like a pea moss, and then they're like, he's like, hey, that's so funny. This moss is super important for the ecosystems and the blah blah blah. And then he brings it up. Yeah, he works at Moss Incorporated. He's like, it's Moss Incorporated Inc., buddy. This guy's blowing it up. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
There's something else wrong here, because I mean, when you go to school to be a proctologist, you know the jokes are coming.
Yeah.
And you just prepare yourself, and then, haha, it's comedy time, whatever. You look at the butts.
Yeah. I went to school, but missed up there.
Sometimes they turn the other cheek.
Oh, that's a whole different level.
Oh, Dan said hole. Was that intentional, Dan?
Yeah, it was.
That's righteous.
That bums me out.
You know what, Dan?
Take off the W.
You can text me, Dan.
Yeah.
Hit me up.
All right, let's put that in the rear. Here we go. The long story short of this guy's conversation is like he didn't even mention what he graduated with when
But
he
he's so
wrote
proud
into
of
the
it.
paper to tell people what he
Yeah.
graduated with. And like he couldn't have been more vague about every complete situation he was talking about, which means his second proposal is right. Am I blowing this out of proportion?
Yeah.
Yes, you are. Yes.
The reason he didn't write it in is because he didn't want secular to make fun of him too.
He thought that an
Yeah.
85-year-old woman was going to turn around and give him the grief.
He said, "My family gives me grief." Is it Abby? Is
Yeah.
that her name? Abby's
Yeah.
gonna give me grief.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I didn't put it in.
If he knew enough to know that some random stranger would give him grief, then he must know that his family is justified in their grief.
See,
giving.
that's what I'm saying. If what a proctologist knows this is coming. So, like, did he enter a field that is commonly just made fun of, or is he really sensitive that, like, the rest of the world don't give two craps about glowing algae or whatever he studies? You know?
Sorry.
He said 2 craps, Mike.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up.
He's blowing it up. Yeah.
Blow.
I didn't say blowing it out.
Yeah, blowing it out. Come on. Okay, now he's being oversensitive. He's being a snowflake here. He just needs to get over himself. I mean, I don't care what you do for a living. You can get all sensitive if people are all like the big preacher joke. Oh, you only work 1 day a week. It's like, well, I stay up more times than anybody because I know it's that's what everybody says. You know, it's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
yeah, it's like I only work an hour.
Yeah, it's like the
You know,
garbage man that clears 6 figures a year and goes,
Yeah, it's like-
laugh it up.
You're loving your job, then
I
love
start
it.
at 5,
you know?
I'm done at 2.
Who cares if they know what it is or what to call it or what, you know, that's your own ego. Get it out of there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cut it to the breeze.
Secular says, you may be putting more energy into this than it deserves.
Yeah.
You know the importance of the work you do? She didn't say whether it was important or not. She just says, you know it's important. Your relatives may be jealous of your accomplishments or so intellectually limited that they can't remember the word ecologist. If you are present when this happens, feel free to correct the mistake as you did, but do it with humor. Yeah, here's the thing. Obviously, you were popular in high school or something, but, like, this is a classic defensive mechanism. You make fun of yourself before someone else does it, and then they got nothing, right? That's how they do it. That's why kids who aren't real popular are usually pretty funny, is because they got made fun of and they figured out that if they just make fun of themselves first or beat them to the joke, then you run the conversation. So, yeah, just beat them to it. Learn all the jokes of your particular algae field, and then fire them out right out of the gate. And then no one can say anything.
All right. Hey, you've been listening to Live from the Path. Thank you for hanging out with us this evening. We very much appreciate it. If you got feedback for us on the show, give us a call on the Live from the Path Bob Eisenhower complaint line. That's 515-517-0085. We'd love to hear from you. And we do very much intend to see you next week. In the meantime, be faithful in the means. God will handle the ends. You've been listening to Live from the Path.